In early January 2026, as Wall Street screens glowed before sunrise, a quiet shift began that most investors would not notice until it was too late. The headlines were still screaming about mega-cap giants, but beneath that noise, a new generation of overlooked companies was preparing to rewrite financial history. This is the story of undiscovered stock gems for 2026, the companies hiding in plain sight, the risks they faced, the breakthroughs they earned, and the lessons they left behind. It begins in 2016, when a young engineer named Jensen Huang stood on a small stage and spoke about artificial intelligence long before the world truly understood it. At that time, NVIDIA was still considered a gaming chip company, and few imagined it would become the backbone of global AI infrastructure a decade later. That same year, another quiet innovator, Lisa Su, was rebuilding AMD from near bankruptcy, focusing on efficiency, discipline, and bold design. Their stories remind us that the biggest gains often start when belief is scarce and doubt is loud. By 2020, the pandemic shook markets, wiped out weak companies, and forced innovation at record speed. In those chaotic months, firms like Zoom and Moderna rose from obscurity into household names almost overnight, but history shows that every cycle creates its own hidden champions. As 2026 unfolds, a new group of companies is stepping into that role. First is Palantir Technologies, founded in 2003 with the goal of turning massive data into human decisions. For years, Palantir was misunderstood, criticized for slow growth and government dependence, but in 2024 and 2025, its AI-driven platforms began powering healthcare, defense, manufacturing, and logistics systems across America. By early 2026, its commercial revenue was accelerating and its software was becoming deeply embedded in critical industries. Next is Sophie Technologies, born from the idea that banking should be digital, transparent, and fair. After struggling through rising interest rates and strict regulations, Sophie reached consistent profitability in late 2025. Its ecosystem of loans, investing, payments, and financial education positioned it as a full-scale digital bank for a new generation. Then there is Rocket Lab, a small space company chasing a dream once reserved only for governments. Founded by Peter Beck in New Zealand, Rocket Lab launched affordable satellites and built reusable rockets for commercial and defense missions. By 2026, demand for low Earth orbit satellites for communication, climate monitoring, and security had exploded. Rocket Lab stood ready with contracts, technology, and ambition aligned. Another overlooked name is Enphase Energy, a company quietly reshaping how homes generate and store power. While solar headlines often focus on panel makers, Enphase built intelligent microinverters and energy storage systems. As America pushed toward energy independence and grid resilience, Enphase products became essential. In the electric vehicle supply chain, Wolfspeed emerged as a silent force. Its silicon carbide chips improved efficiency and charging speed, critical for EVs, data centers, and renewable energy systems. After heavy investments and temporary losses, Wolfspeed entered 2026 with expanding capacity and rising demand. In healthcare, Teladoc Health represented a second-chance story. After explosive growth during the pandemic and painful corrections afterward, Teladoc rebuilt its platform around chronic care, mental health, and remote monitoring. By 2026, healthcare systems depended on its technology to cut costs and expand patient reach. Each of these companies shared one trait: they were misunderstood, undervalued, and underestimated. Their stock charts did not yet reflect their true potential. Behind every breakthrough was a timeline of sacrifice, failed experiments, investor skepticism, and relentless execution. Markets often punish innovation before they reward it. In 2008, Amazon was criticized fourth in profits. In 2012, Tesla was mocked as a risky car startup. And in 2016, NVIDIA was doubted as a niche chip maker, yet patience transformed those doubts into extraordinary returns. The same pattern is unfolding again. Economic uncertainty, inflation concerns, geopolitical tensions, and changing interest rates have made investors cautious, but caution often creates opportunity. When fear dominates headlines, value hides in balance sheets, innovation labs, and quiet earnings calls. By studying revenue trends, cash flow growth, management discipline, and market expansion, investors can identify tomorrow's leaders before they dominate the news. In 2026, artificial intelligence, space technology, digital finance, renewable energy, and remote healthcare stand at the center of this transformation. Companies operating at these crossroads are not just selling products, they are building the infrastructure of the next decade. Yet opportunity never comes without risk. High growth stocks can face volatility, regulation changes, competition, and execution challenges. That is why diversification, patience, and continuous learning remain essential. Smart investors focus not only on price movements, but on business fundamentals and long-term vision. They understand that real wealth is built slowly through conviction backed by research. Every great stock story begins with uncertainty. Every historic return starts with a decision that felt uncomfortable at the time. The investors who believed in Apple during the dot-com crash, Netflix during DVD mailing days, and Tesla before profitability were rewarded not for bravery, but for perspective. Perspective means seeing beyond quarterly noise and into structural change. As 2026 progresses, structural change is accelerating faster than ever. Artificial intelligence is redefining productivity, energy innovation is reshaping power systems, and space technology is expanding human reach. Finance is becoming digital, healthcare is becoming remote, and manufacturing is becoming intelligent. Within these shifts, undiscovered stock gems are quietly forming the backbone of tomorrow's economy. Their names may not trend daily on social media, but their technology is shaping the world behind the scenes. For those willing to study, wait, and trust data over emotion, the rewards can be extraordinary. History does not repeat, but it often rhymes, and in the rhythm of markets, today's overlooked innovators become tomorrow's legends. The true challenge is not finding information, but having the courage to act on insight. In the end, wealth is not built by chasing hype, but by recognizing value before it becomes obvious. As the financial story of 2026 continues to unfold, the biggest gains may already be quietly underway, because while the crowd looks at what already exploded, visionaries search for what is just beginning, and in that search, discipline, patience, and belief become the most powerful investments of all. So as you watch the markets, study the charts, and read the headlines, remember that the greatest opportunities often whisper before they roar. And when the noise finally catches up, it is usually too late. Which of these hidden companies do you believe will become the next legendary winner, and why?